I don't touch anything anymore. More women's clothes. Button-down shirt.
Behind a Tucson, Arizona home lies a dry riverbed. Locally, it's known as a wash. For 58 days, this patch of land became the focal point of a baffling case that captivated the nation. But its importance wasn't flagged by the police. No official statement ever directed attention there. But one man with a camera entered, recorded his findings, and commanded global notice. This dry channel snakes behind Annie Guthrie's property. Annie, the one who alerted authorities on February 1st. Her home is ground zero for a probe that, 58 days later, has produced no named person of interest, no definitive crime scene, and zero answers for the one question Nancy Guthrie's loved ones and the nation have been asking since that day. Where is Nancy? Then, on March 28, 2026, day 56 of the search, a YouTuber scouring the wash on foot made a discovery. Several pieces of clothing scattered in the same channel where pants had been reported to authorities just weeks before. The sheriff was alerted. Deputies were informed. The discovery was recorded. Pictures were released online. What was the deputies' response? What this discovery implies about Nancy's fate that night, and why the specific spot directly behind Annie's home reshapes every theory developed so far in this case. That is the focus of this report. Experience tells me that seemingly minor details are critical. A riverbed, a coat, a pair of trousers, a searcher who revisits the very same patch of land. These elements are vital, especially now in this case, and in ways officials have yet to publicly disclose. Don't go anywhere. Who is exploring with Jim? To grasp the find, you must first know the finder. Jim isn't just some amateur wandering with a camera. Exploring with Jim is a solo documentarian who has methodically combed the Tucson region since the case first emerged in early February. He's not a cop. He has no authority. He plays no official part in the inquiry, with no access to institutional resources or forensics. All he has is a camera, a pair of boots, and a determination to do what organized searches in this case have repeatedly failed to accomplish: to enter the terrain, to traverse it by foot, and to remain long enough to uncover clues. Grid searching is self-explanatory. An area is sectioned off. Every segment is walked. Findings are recorded. You return. You repeat. You never presume a clear pass means an area is empty. The wind shifts evidence. Rainfall relocates objects. Growth can conceal what was once missed. And inside a desert wash, the landscape alters with each storm, revealing what was hidden just 3 weeks before. Jim gets this, so he returned. This wasn't his first major discovery in the case. Those pants found earlier in this very same wash, that exact drainage route behind Annie Guthrie's home, were found because of his grid search efforts. That discovery sparked interest. It was recorded and then reported to police. And a pair of women's pants. Out here searching, you face incredibly hard choices about what you find. You understand? Then, on March 28th, Jim returned to the exact same wash and discovered even more. He found several articles of clothing, not just one, in the very spot of the earlier discovery. When the online sleuthing community learned Jim was back at the wash, they reacted instantly. Those who had been following, the first discovery knew immediately how significant a second find in that same spot was. From an investigator's view, one find might just be chance, but a group of discoveries in one specific zone suggests something much more, and that is precisely the pattern emerging from the wash behind Annie Guthrie's home. Jim's patient method and his return trips, along with meticulous records, is the discipline that has turned citizen sleuths into vital contributors. He is doing the actual legwork. He is locating evidence and alerting the sheriff, exactly as the situation requires. I need to speak plainly about the independent investigators on this case because it's crucial. There is a certain inclination from some media outlets and even official law enforcement channels to write off citizen searchers as amateurs who just get in the way, accusing them of fueling rumors or complicating the official inquiry. I can see the logic behind that concern, but in this case, the facts simply don't back that up. The facts support Jim, and they support the community. The facts support the individuals who walked those washes, while the official Investigators were busy with press events and internal credibility issues. Instead, Jim has twice delivered documented evidence to law enforcement from a specific location, photographed where it lay before it was ever reported. He filed it through the correct channels, creating a public record that can't be dismissed or ignored. This is how a citizen handles evidence responsibly, and it must be treated with that same respect. The location itself. Let's pinpoint where this wash is, because its geography is not a side note. It is the core of this case. Everything we're about to analyze regarding the discovery, its potential meaning, and the gravity of the sheriff's reaction all stems from this specific terrain. So, we have to take a moment to really grasp the landscape. The wash near Annie Guthrie's residence cuts through a part of Tucson under the Puma County Sheriff's authority. A wash, for anyone not from the Sonoran Desert or the greater American Southwest, is a natural, dry channel, like an arroyo. It's dry most of the time, but can be hit with severe flash floods in monsoon season. These ravines carve their way through the desert and snake through local neighborhoods, linking areas in ways that streets and sidewalks don't. They are an integral feature of the landscape, woven into the very fabric of Tucson's design. For years, a wash can be right beside you, completely overlooked. Just part of the backyard, a simple gap in the fence, a slice of wild desert carving through a residential grid, and searching them is a nightmare. A Tucson wash is a tangle of palo verde, cactus skeletons, and dense brush. The ground itself is rocky, unstable. The channel floor might drop 12 feet, or run so level it slips under a bridge. It narrows and widens without any warning, and when monsoons hit, the water carries everything with it, like debris, organic matter, or anything left in the channel. A flood can sweep an object 50 yards in an instant. It can conceal something under 6 inches of silt, or it might leave an item in plain view, unseen until a searcher walks the grid. The wash behind Annie Guthrie's house, however, is critical for one key reason you need to fully understand. It's a hidden exit from Annie's property that avoids any road. A path with no vehicle to be caught by a Ring doorbell camera. A path with no pavement to hold a single footprint. A path with no driver whose plates could be identified, and no one at a window to see a figure slip from the back of that property, moving through dense brush and rock into a drainage channel that disappears into the wash system. That route is completely invisible to surveillance cameras. And in a case like this, where the biggest mystery is how Nancy Guthrie could vanish without being seen, that is a monumental detail. Law enforcement knew about this wash from the start of the investigation. Finding the pants was not the first time attention turned to this drainage corridor. It's been a central point of discussion for weeks now. But on March 28th, it demanded focus again. First it was pants, now a jacket. But look here, you guys. Yeah, I didn't even see it. You see these marks? I don't know. That really looks like blood to me. First pants, then more items, all in the same wash. This geography isn't random. The land itself is talking. And there's a vital point that gets missed when we only discuss this wash abstractly. We are discussing terrain that most people in this case have never physically walked. A satellite view from above is not the same as being inside it. Photos don't capture the channel's actual depth, or the height of the bank's vegetation, or the way sound is muffled or carries in the dark, or how the terrain just swallows anything that falls. Jim, however, has walked it. And Jim is sure the items found on March 28th weren't there by accident. They were either placed intentionally or washed in from a direction that reveals their origin. The terrain doesn't lie. It has no agenda. It simply holds its secrets until someone finds them. So what was found? On March 28th, 2026, let's be exact about what we know, because in a case like this, misinformation outruns the facts. What you're about to hear originates from a public post on X dated March 28, 2026 by the user at HopeIsFaith24. The post replied to a true crime creator and also tagged at Nancy Grace. The pictures in that post are the factual basis for this report. On March 28, 2026, 56 days into the search for Nancy Guthrie, the channel Exploring with Jim went back to the wash behind Annie Guthrie's home and discovered clothing. Photos from that post show what appears to be a dark jacket and trousers. These items were in the same channel where pants had been found before. The photos show the items as found, lying in the wash, seemingly untouched. Nothing was moved before it was photographed. Jim shot them in place. That is the correct way to handle potential evidence in an active case. You never touch the items. You don't shift them for a better photo. You record them exactly where they are, in the precise position they were found, and then you call the police. Jim did exactly that. He reported the find to the Pima County Sheriff's Department. That report is confirmed within the post itself. Deputies were called. Now, it is vital to separate what is fact from what is not. Our standards demand we maintain that separation. What is known? Articles of clothing were found. The discovery was photographed. The pictures show clothes in the wash directly behind Annie Guthrie's residence. The sheriff was contacted. What is not known is if these items connect to Nancy Guthrie or the night of February 1st, 2026. No official connection has been made by PCSD, the FBI, or any forensic team. Proving a link means the items must be physically collected and analyzed, possibly tested for DNA, and then officially linked to the case by law enforcement. None of that exists. We have a place, photos, and a notification to police. This is significant, enough to warrant serious attention, but it is not proof. We refuse to draw unsupported conclusions. What we have is a place and a pattern, and a question which the Sheriff's Department must now answer. And based on this department's handling of the case so far, that responsibility is one we should not assume will be met without public pressure. I also need to address the community's reaction to this find, because the speed and rigor from online investigators has become part of this developing story. Hours after at Hope is Faith 24's post, the online discussion was deep. People pulled maps, plotting the new find against the location of the previous one, gauging distances, studying photos for distinct details, and comparing the geography with theories about movement from the property that night. This was not just random guessing. It was applied deductive work by people absorbed in this case for nearly 2 months. The public's own analysis continues to outpace official police disclosures, and just like every time before, this case is no different. The sheriff's office is solely responsible for this communication breakdown. The wash holds a clear pattern. This is what I believe has investigators zeroed in, and it should put the entire community on high alert. That very pattern. This drainage channel, right behind Annie Guthrie's home, has turned up several key discoveries in this investigation. First, a pair of trousers, and then again on March 28th. More clothes were found, what looks like a jacket and another pair of pants. Several pieces. The same wash, the same area, but on separate days. For a missing person case, especially when there is no body, finding evidence clustered in a single, distinct location is a top priority for investigators. It's how you map a route. It's how you construct a timeline. This is how you pinpoint a key location, separating it from the irrelevant to make it the main focus. Discovering several items in one spot is rarely a coincidence. One piece of clothing in a drainage channel is easy enough to dismiss. The wind carried it there. A passerby could have lost it. It's completely unrelated to the investigation. But that argument falls apart with 2 different finds on 2 separate occasions in the exact same spot. So now officials and the public must question, is this random chance, or is it a breadcrumb trail? And this reflects the same logic ex-FBI profilers have applied in similar situations. When evidence turns up somewhere, you examine more than just the object itself. You must analyze the place. You ask, what brought this here? From which direction would an object need to move to land right here? What can the landscape reveal about its probable journey from its starting point to this one? Within a desert drainage network, things left on a certain property will naturally flow downward along the course of the channel. When several items are recovered from the same section of that wash, the most obvious question becomes, did they all start from the same place? And does that starting point match the house whose property line runs right into this specific channel? These are not accusations, they are lines of inquiry. The exact questions that forensic science and on-the-ground detective work exist to solve, and the very questions that will remain a mystery unless the Pima County Sheriff's Department gives this discovery the attention it demands. These drainage channels are also frequently linked to hiding evidence, especially when someone must ditch something fast and unseen. It's simple to get to from a private yard. At night, you can barely see. No hard ground exists to capture a footprint. No street lamps are there to cast light on a figure, and no security cameras can see what goes on at the far edge of a property leading into the wash. Should a person need to transport something covertly, the drainage channel behind a home in a Tucson suburb presents a disturbingly logical option. This isn't a final judgment. It's a known behavioral pattern that detectives have observed in concealment cases involving similar landscapes and circumstances. We are not claiming to know what occurred in that channel. The geography itself suggests a clear path worth following, and the pattern of these finds makes that path undeniable. Now, let's address the inevitable question that arises about these physical discoveries. The issue of contamination. Couldn't these clothes have been discarded years ago? Entirely unrelated to this case? Couldn't a complete stranger have left them there? Yes, that is always a risk. Any evidence in an open environment faces that. It is precisely why forensics exists. You analyze an object for the trace clues it might hold. Things like fibers, DNA, or biological markers tying it to a person, a place, or a key event. Science, not just location, forges that definitive link. But the proximity of these items is still crucial. It tells us precisely where to focus. And this wash, yielding multiple pieces of clothing so near the property at the heart of this investigation, is a place that demands forensic scrutiny, no matter the alternate theories. Those other explanations are what forensic testing will either validate or eliminate. The pattern here demands that we get answers. The official line, "The Puma County Sheriff's Department has been notified." That simple phrase carries an enormous weight in this investigation, and it is vital we grasp what it really means, and what it doesn't, given the department's documented history with this case. Consider the record, because context here is everything. Sheriff Chris Nanos was the target of a formal no-confidence vote from inside his own department. This wasn't from outsiders, but from within his own organization, from his own team. The deputies and staff who serve under him went on record stating they lack faith in his leadership. That is no small matter. It signals an institutional breakdown that directly questions how this case has been handled. Former Chief Deputy Rick Castigagar, an insider who knows this department intimately, who understands its protocols, its culture, and its shortcomings, has publicly voiced serious concerns about the official approach to this case. He offered specific, credible, on-the-record criticisms. The previous sheriff, Dr. Richard Carmona, who occupied the very same office as Nanos, and who carries the weight of a former United States Surgeon General, stated for the record that the crime scene was permanently corrupted. Permanently. Not just damaged. Not merely compromised, but corrupted beyond any hope of recovery. From a man of his standing, those are absolutely devastating words, and they have never been adequately answered by the current leadership at the Sheriff's Department. So against that documented, sourced, on-the-record history of systemic failure, the statement that the sheriff was simply notified feels different. It is not comforting. It raises alarms because we have seen this pattern before. Tips are submitted, evidence is reported, the public brings forth information, and then is left to wait. And the official accounting of what follows has been opaque at best. Now, with Jim's discovery and the sheriff alerted, critical questions emerged. Was there a response? Did they inspect the location firsthand? Was anything secured? Were they bagged, tagged, and logged as evidence? Did they document the scene with their own photos? Did they connect this to the pants found earlier, seeing a potential pattern in that wash? Was the FBI, already engaged with the case, brought in? We have no official answers to these questions, and that silence is troubling. The public must know how police handle civilian leads in this case. The stakes could not be higher. If this evidence is processed, sent to forensics, and linked definitively to Nancy Guthrie, it's a major turning point. After 58 days, this case has lacked a confirmed crime scene, a coherent timeline, or a person of interest. A forensic match would alter the entire investigation. If the items are gathered and analyzed, and found to be unrelated, that also provides value by ruling out a theory. An investigation must pursue and resolve all leads, not abandon them unexamined in a dry creek bed. But if that evidence is never even collected, if the sheriff's office ignores a second major find in one spot, that failure itself becomes the story. We are also seeing a specific institutional pattern that must be stated plainly. The Puma County Sheriff's Office never volunteered details about the first discovery in the wash. The community brought it to light. The department did not inform the public about the importance of the wash behind Annie's house as a focal point of the search. The community pieced that together. Now, a second find has been documented there. Once again, the community is at the forefront of this information, with law enforcement forced into a reactive position, responding to civilian finds instead of leading with their own. This cycle, community discovery, official reaction, poor communication, then more community work, has defined this case for 58 days. This is the context needed to understand any statement that the sheriff has been notified. February 1st, and the root of it all. We must go back to the night Nancy vanished. Because that night, February 1st, 2026, is the origin point for everything that followed. And the wash behind Annie Guthrie's house now pulls our focus back there, inescapably. Nancy Guthrie, 84 years old, was reported missing from her residence on the morning of February 1st. The call, the very one that launched this investigation, Kais, began a chain of events that, 58 days on, we are still trying to decipher. What happened during the night? Where was Nancy? Did she leave on her own? Was she taken? Or did she even leave at all? Or did this all happen much closer to home than authorities have ever let on? This is not some wild speculation. These are the core questions, and the evidence now appearing in the wash behind Annie's house forces our attention back to them. Regarding that night, we possess no clear surveillance video showing Nancy's departure. Not a single doorbell cam recorded her on a driveway or a walkway. No neighbor's camera captured her presence on a street. There was no confirmed vehicle that carried her from the scene. The complete absence of an obvious exit for an 84-year-old woman remains the most stubborn riddle in this case, because people don't simply dematerialize from inside a home without leaving some sign of how they got out, unless their path was one that cameras could not see. The rear of a home, a fence line, a drainage wash that cuts through neighborhoods without any cameras, with no streetlights, on earth that doesn't hold prints like concrete does. In darkness, knowing the lay of the land, a trail through a wash becomes a ghost route, vanishing from the record almost instantly. This is precisely what the landscape of the wash behind Annie Guthrie's home signifies to investigators. A pathway that surveillance missed. A channel that is now demanding forensic attention for the second time. A site that has evolved from a single clue into a developing pattern. Former FBI Special Agent Steve Moore has commented on this case and described, in the context of similar no-body disappearances, the investigative method of reconstructing a route by working backward from physical clues. You discover an item. You determine how it arrived there. You map the most likely trail back from its discovery to its starting point. You analyze the terrain, the hour, the conditions, and you construct a theory. The wash behind Annie's house now gives detectives 2 data points for that reverse tracing method. A previous finding of pants, a March 28th find of a jacket and more pants, numerous items in one area. The investigative principle of working backward from that collection points firmly, undeniably, to the residence at the head of that drainage channel. That is not a definitive statement about the events of February 1st. It is the direction the clues are taking us. And 58 days into this, with no crime scene and no known path of travel, a direction is vital. I want to place this within the context of that night's known timeline. Nancy's disappearance was reported in the morning. Whatever transpired, whatever sequence of events took place, occurred in a period we still cannot precisely pinpoint. The entire mystery of this case lies in the hours between her last confirmed sighting and that morning call. Moving through a wash at night is fundamentally different from traveling through it by day. At night, in a suburb with very little ambient light, the degree of cover offered by this kind of terrain increases dramatically. What would be plain in daylight, like motion and shadows, or the outlines of people and things, becomes functionally invisible in the blackness of a Tucson neighborhood. And a wash behind a house, far from street lamps, is as profoundly dark as any outdoor area in a city can be. The February 1st timeline in the topography of the wash and the now documented pattern of clothing found in that wash are three key threads that define this case's top priority as of March 30th, 2026. The physical evidence now lies in the wash. The sheriff is aware. What follows is no longer in the hands of the community. It now rests with an institution whose performance in this investigation has already drawn criticism from people far more qualified to judge. Then there is the community's role. This case proves, more than any other in recent memory, the power that citizen investigators, independent creators, and a vigilant online community hold when official channels have stalled, unable to provide answers with the urgency that the public and the case demand. Let me walk you through this community's precise contributions, not in broad strokes. Specifically, the FBI's gun store list surfaced first through community channels, identifying names the public tracked long before law enforcement acknowledged the inquiry. Then came the forensic blood analysis, specifically the donut-shaped blood, spatter, and indoor evidence that this community and its analysts were dissecting in detail well before any official accounting was released. The pattern of that spatter, its implications for velocity and surface, what it meant for the blood's origin. This community was conducting forensic work that the sheriff's office kept private. There was the University of Arizona athletics tag, found in evidence footage by investigator at Chaim, who has 193,000 posts on X, and who was so sure of her find that she announced her intent to report it. That discovery was born entirely from public analysis of the available video. There was the behavioral marker of a flashlight held in the mouth, a detail specific to tradespeople that this community flagged as significant for a worker type with specific site familiarity. And finally, there's the wash behind the victim's home, searched on foot, under the sun, through dense brush by a YouTuber named Jim. He returns to that same ground repeatedly because he understands that landscapes change and one search never reveals everything. Not one of these leads came from an official press conference. Not one. Every single one began with this community of people watching, analyzing, grid searching, and using real investigative logic on public information, and every one of them compelled law enforcement to respond, to acknowledge, or to clarify. That is a significant outcome. This is citizen journalism, with a level of dedication that demands respect, not dismissal. And it forces a question that we must sit with. Why is the community unearthing clues that formal, well-funded investigations are not? The channel, Exploring with Jim, is a direct result of that commitment. He has been on the ground, navigating the thick terrain while the sheriff's department was handling press briefings and credibility issues. He went back to the wash because the evidence demanded a second look. His assessment was correct, but whether authorities will treat these finds with proper gravity remains the question. The community's response to that has been resolute. We will keep watching, searching, and reporting, regardless of official action or inaction. Examining Savannah Guthrie's role. From the start, Savannah Guthrie has been the public face of her mother's search. As a Today Show host, one of television's most recognized journalists, she gave this case a media spotlight rarely seen for a missing Tucson elder. And she wielded this power deliberately, even strategically. Ex-FBI agent Harry Trombus confirmed her moves were an investigative tool coordinated with police. That collaboration is highly significant. Savannah's public statements were not just emotional pleas, they were calculated moves. Each one served an investigative goal. Her words carried the weight of someone holding back crucial information. Her Today Show appearance was a turning point for public understanding of this case. Several of her statements redefined the investigation in an instant. She mentioned investigators had stood over the bed. This is a jarring, physical detail, not a vague idea. Police over a bed suggests a very specific focus on that sleeping area. That detail is critical. It points to a precise area of interest inside the home, and it suggests that focus was important enough for a targeted search. She spoke of responding to ransom notes, not dismissing them. This implies authorities believed the notes were credible enough to pursue. That pursuit secretly steered the investigation's initial, crucial days. She portrayed a family navigating a crisis with no clean resolution, no clear timeline, and no official person of interest. A family that has received information they are not sharing. This is a family, juggling a public narrative against a private reality that, based on the evidence found in that wash, may be far darker than they have admitted. Now that wash behind Annie's house is her domain. Annie is the one who first reported Nancy missing. Her property borders the drainage channel where multiple clothing items were discovered. Law enforcement has not named Annie Guthrie as a suspect. No one has been publicly identified as a suspect. We are not making accusations or drawing conclusions the evidence can't support. We are only stating what the geography itself implies. The wash is directly behind Annie's home. The evidence was found in that wash. These are the facts. In a case where Nancy vanished without being seen on any camera, the location of that wash and the clothes found there is a fact that cannot be dismissed. Savannah returns to the Today Show on April 6th. What she says next will be pivotal. After she processes these new events, her words must be watched closely. This community's eyes are on this, and this channel is on the story. Let's add some vital context. The family dynamics here are far more complex than they seem. Savannah Guthrie is a professional journalist. She knows exactly how information travels. She knows how an audience processes a story. She knows what to say, and more importantly, what to withhold and when. Her public statements have been strategic, not emotional. What she has revealed and what she has concealed creates its own map. That wash is just behind Annie's home, who is Savannah's kin. And the truth lies somewhere in the gap between Savannah's public story and what the investigation has physically pulled from a drainage channel that starts in a backyard. The truth of what befell Nancy Guthrie on February 1st, 2026. We haven't found that truth yet, but we are getting closer to where it is buried. And now, for what I've held back. I said at the beginning we would circle back to one crucial thing. I promised what I was saving would change the context of everything discussed so far. I was serious. This is it. For 58 days, the defining question of this case was never about Nancy Guthrie's location. It was never even about who was responsible. The most difficult question to answer, the one that has crippled every theory and stumped every expert, has been this. How do you prove what happened to a person when there is no body, no crime scene, and no confirmed trail of their movements? Cases of homicide without a body, and field experts have stated this repeatedly for this case and others, hinge on physical evidence, almost exclusively. Not on admissions, not on witnesses, but on tangible proof that pinpoints a person or traces a path, that ties a victim to a location in a way that withstands forensic challenge in court. One piece of fabric, a fiber, a mere trace, the kind of thing a patient searcher can discover on a second pass, through a desert channel that official teams might have missed because they were seeking something bigger, something obvious, or simply not looking there at all. If the authorities retrieve these things from the wash behind Annie Guthrie's home, and to be very clear, we have no confirmation that they have, and if forensics gets results, and if those results link these items to the night of February 1st, 2026, to Nancy Guthrie, or to any individual or place vital to this case, then the wash behind Annie's a concrete, documented, forensically sound scene in an investigation that desperately lacked one. It becomes proof of how a person was moved, or moved themselves. Proof of a path, proof of disposal, proof of concealment. Proof that pins the material facts of this case to a specific spot, in a drainage channel behind a specific home, compelling law enforcement to launch a total and complete inquiry. After 58 days, following a vote of no confidence, after a former U.S. Surgeon General declared the crime scene irretrievably compromised, after every promising lead dissolved into yet another dead end, a YouTuber returned to a wash with a camera and uncovered more clothing right there. The sheriff's department has been alerted. Now, the question is how law enforcement will respond. And this community, along with this channel, will remain vigilant until we get answers. As you finish this video, I need you to remember one key thing. It's not a theory or a conclusion, but a framework. The wash is a place. The discovery pattern is a signal. Notifying the sheriff is now a matter of public record. And how authorities proceed is a test of the entire institution, not just this single investigation. If the Puma County Sheriff's Department secures this evidence, analyzes it, and reports the findings with the transparency this case requires, that is the definition of accountability. But if these items are left untouched, unmentioned, and unconfirmed, then the very people doing the work authorities have not will have their answer about this institution, and that answer will be a damning piece of evidence in itself. 58 days in, we all know that hope is not the same as patience. This community is not standing by. They are not waiting in silence. They are watching every move, every briefing, every tip, every search. The sheriff knows. We're all waiting to see what's next. Nancy Guthrie is still gone. That one truth is the core of our mission and what this community has forged over the last 58 days. It's what drives people like Jim to search a dry riverbed when it's easier to look away. If you have been tracking this case, you're aware that the biggest breakthroughs didn't come from official channels, not from the sheriff's press conferences, nor from FBI updates, but from citizens scrutinizing footage frame by frame, from individuals who called in tips and drove to Tucson to walk the washes, from people on X at midnight tagging reporters and officials by name, insisting, "Look here, this is important. Someone must see this." That's been the community's mantra since February 1st, and it has worked every time. Jim is one of those people. His find in that wash on March 28th, which he carefully documented, reported, and then shared for all to see, continues that powerful tradition. It is the citizen-led effort this case has always needed, and it demands a serious response from the institution that was told. If you agree that these independent investigators and this entire community deserve credit for their efforts where official channels have failed, please like this video. It tells the algorithm this matters. It helps this information find the people who must see it. Subscribe if you're new here. We report on this case as it develops, not on a news cycle schedule, not when it is convenient. This matters, right now. Leave your analysis in the comments. Examine these pictures. What does that wash pattern mean to you? Tell me what you believe the sheriff's department will do, and what their action should be. This community uncovers facts and ensures accountability. That is not insignificant. This case has demonstrated that truth time and again. We will continue to watch and report. Nancy Guthrie will be remembered. This video is solely for informational and educational purposes. All content presented originates from publicly accessible sources, including social media history and confirmed mainstream media coverage, and on-record comments from named, credible sources. Content is accurate at the time of recording. No one has been named a suspect in Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. Any claims relating to unverified community input are clearly marked as unconfirmed throughout this video. This channel has no connection to the Guthrie family, the Puma County Sheriff's Department, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, or any similar law enforcement organization. Should you have information relevant to Nancy Guthrie's disappearance, please telephone the Puma County Sheriff's Tip Line or the Tucson FBI Division immediately. The disappearance of Nancy Guthrie remains unsolved after more than 58 days, with no suspect and no confirmed crime scene. Attention has shifted to a desert wash behind Annie Guthrie's home, where exploring with Jim discovered clothing items on 2 separate occasions in the same location. These findings were documented and reported, but authorities have not confirmed any connection to Nancy. The wash represents a hidden, camera-free route that could explain her unexplained disappearance. Meanwhile, online communities have played a major role in uncovering leads, often outpacing official updates, while law enforcement faces criticism for lack of transparency. If the items are forensically analyzed, they could mark a turning point in the case. The central question remains, could this wash hold the final clue to what really happened to Nancy?